to be putting some things in place for business owners to use as a guideline for practices that they'll put into place as they open. We're referring people to the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation website. This is a state-approved guidance that we're sharing with our business owners, and it outlines a lot of different things, including sanitization, monitoring the health of your employees, how to space people apart within your businesses, and we're asking that businesses don't open until they have these practices in place. On the public health side of this, if we have a big outbreak, we will be doing the contact tracing, and if a business is found to be sort of the hub of responsibility for that outbreak, that the practices maybe are not in alignment with what we're recommending, that business could end up being closed. And we're trying to avoid that by giving everybody the information that we need on from the beginning. I want people to feel safe as they are working in their community. I want people to be safe as they're visiting in the community. There's a responsibility for people who choose to go to the restaurant or go to the bar or go to any of these businesses that will be open. If you're choosing to go there, be aware of your surroundings when you go in there. If it seems really crowded, maybe leave and come back later. For the business owners, it's the responsibility is there to make sure your staff are trained, that the materials they need for cleaning are available to them, and that people understand, again, that social distancing requirement has not ended. If we get more positive cases of COVID-19, we will still have to do the contact tracing, and the isolation and quarantine requirements that have been there for the last 2 months still are in place. We would still need to have a conversation about who visited if it's related to a business, who visited, how many people were there. We would have to follow up with everybody to find out, to make sure that they know that there's been an exposure. Let's see. The time frame that I am thinking about when we put these the guidance in place are incubation periods. The virus, there's an incubation period of 14 days after an exposure to COVID-19. So within 14 days, we will see, do we have new cases? Has there been a spike in cases? And then we'll go 14 more days, 2 incubation periods. We would have a real good idea of what's happening within our community based on that. We have to take into consideration, as our businesses are opened, if people in surrounding counties where they do have higher numbers of cases or even deaths in their communities, we might be attracting them into our communities. So we really need to pay attention to those people that develop symptoms after being in public places and things like that. So public health will definitely still be very involved. And I really have confidence in our business owners. I think that they're motivated to do the right thing, and we're definitely here as a resource if they have questions, if they are not understanding the guidance. Our environmental health staff will be in touch with all of our licensed businesses to make sure that they know where to find that information. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jim Paine. I'm the mayor of the city of Superior. I just want to give a couple of updates about what our process for the city will be going forward. But first I want to say a thank you to Kathy Ronke herself and the entire Douglas County Public Health Department. There's been a lot of conversation lately about how well we are doing in northern Wisconsin, especially Douglas County. That is not an accident. That is a true testament of the work of these very competent professionals. And when you see a low number of cases, please note that for each one of those cases, there's been an aggressive, lengthy and detailed process carried out by these people that has prevented the virus from spreading further within this county. So I very much believe that there are people that are healthy and even alive today because of the work that they have done. So I'm very grateful for that. It does feel, after what you just heard, like the end is in sight, but we still need to be very cautious. So I strongly encourage business owners within the city of Superior, as well as the leaders of other large organizations such as faith-based organizations and schools which are not reopened by the Supreme Court's ruling, and other large organizations, to proceed with caution, to follow the guidelines that are being put forward by the WDC and Douglas County Public Health, and of course to use just good common sense and prudence. And I'm very grateful for those business leaders especially that have acted carefully in these last couple of hours and that are looking out for the health of their customers and their employees. And I have every confidence that they will continue to do so in the days and weeks to come. However, we are mostly in the reopening phase of the city of Superior. How that relates to us is specifically a lot of our outdoor spaces. All of our parks are now open, including playgrounds, and our boat launches and dog park and skate park are all open. We will have all of our park bathrooms, life jacket stations, and fish cleaning stations open by this weekend. We will not be hosting large events in this community for several weeks to come. We will not be accepting permits for major events, nor reservations for park spaces like pavilions for the month of June. Throughout that month, though, we will be reevaluating the situation and hopefully allowing some of those events to take place in July and August, but we'll determine that in the coming weeks. That said, if people want to submit reservations for park spaces or permits for events in the later months of summer, they may do so, and we'll reevaluate as we go forward. However, I know the news that a lot of people are waiting for, the 4th of July will take place in some sense. We will have a fireworks show in the city of Superior, but we are going to move it back to the fairgrounds for 1 year away from Barker's Island. And our Parks Department is working with KUWS to try and provide an FM station so people can listen to the corresponding music in their cars and not in large groups. We will have some form of parade and car show, but it will not be the same as last year. We're going to do what we can to prevent a mass gathering. Other than that, and we will look to open most city offices to the public on June 1st. Mr. Chairman, anything else to say?
Just one thing. All the county parks are open. We are going to open the bathrooms, the playgrounds, the beaches, and as early as next week, the county campground should be starting to take campers into those sites. So we're opening as fast as we can, and we're as cautiously as we can. And people are going to have to access these and use common sense, social distancing, and to make sure that they themselves are keeping themselves safe also in these parks. Thank you.
Question?
I guess it's just me. So we've seen some other counties enact their own stay safe orders. Just to clarify, Douglas County won't be doing anything like that, will they?
Right now, we are working on the draft of orders that we want to do. There's still a lot of unknowns coming from the state. There's still decisions to be made. Some guidance still is coming out, and we want to make sure that decisions that we make are in alignment with the state, as well as being the best for our community here.
So there will be orders. They won't
Yes.
be the safer at home order fully applied.
Correct.
Okay.
But will county offices open at the same time city offices do?
We're not sure on that yet. We're trying to decide that. We've been talking about that as early as, actually, we were talking about it last week, trying to get a plan in place. Ann's got, you want to talk about that at all, Ann, or are you okay?
I think we're more or less shooting for the same day that Jim said, since we're co-located, but we're not quite sure what that's going to look like. There might be only one access to the courthouse, one access to the government center. Also, the courts have indicated they are opening in June, so they're filling up their calendars right now.
Let me clarify. Our goal is to follow the county. We expect that to be June 1st. If they need to push that back, we'll stay close with that.
But for now, if things look good, that's the...
And we're still
date we're
having
looking at.
employees who are working at home to continue to do that in the near future, right?
Right.
And I would just add, things are still very fluid. We're learning as we go, and I just would like people to be patient with that. We're going to try to meet everybody's needs. We want people to be safe. The virus is still here. It's not gone. We have low numbers in our county, and I think, as you mentioned, it's because people are doing a really good job of following the strategies for prevention that we have. But we're learning every day as we go. So we're making the best decisions that we can with what we know today. And we will certainly be there for, I know there's going to be a lot of questions from the businesses, and we're prepared to answer whatever comes up. Our goal is to help people put the changes in place at their business so people are safe and they're safe. I want their workers to be safe and I want them to be healthy. So,
are you guys expecting Minnesotans to come over to this side of the bridge and utilize restaurants and bars and things? And if so, are there any recommendations in place for business owners?
Well, again, it's the social distancing, the practice, what we've been practicing, if we continue to do that, we don't want a bar that's so packed you can hardly walk in it, we're trying to make sure that those things do not happen. I think the city superior is going to be pretty aggressive on trying to make sure that takes place, would you say?
Right. Yes, we are expecting a lot of Minnesotans to come over and use our bars and restaurants that are now open, but the guidelines that Ms. Ronke mentioned are they are in force, and we're asking for compliance not just from business owners but from customers. If a business is very crowded, that a bar or restaurant, there are a lot of businesses to support. Find a place that is not as crowded. This response requires responsibility and compliance from everybody.
Are you guys going to set any limits on the number of people that can go into those places?
Okay. The guidelines that we're getting from the talk about how the distances on a bar, and just to give you a good example, they talk about 2 empty bar stools between customers if they're not in the same group. 4 people, I think, at a table, stuff like that, separation. So in other words, we're trying to do the same separation that we've been all hearing about, 6 feet and that, to try to do that in the bars and restaurants. Now, I'm not sure it'll be that easy. I was an ex-cop. I know how hard that is at 2 o'clock in the morning to maybe enforce. But that's the guidelines that we're going to try to get the bars and the restaurants to go by. And of course, the city has licensing authority, and I'm assuming that they'll probably be kind of watching that if they get complaints, And of course, as Kathy Ronke said, that if it turns out one of the bars is a hot spot, then the city has options and the county has options to close that bar and to make it responsible, at least to comply with some of the regulations.
Well, and it's a specific number is difficult to enforce. It's hard to send a police officer in to physically count the number of bodies that's in a business. What we are looking for is general broad compliance with these guidelines that are being published, and it should be fairly obvious who is trying to comply and who is refusing to comply. And so our enforcement actions will, of course, begin with communication and trying to get voluntary compliance from both businesses and customers before we proceed to any more extreme enforcement actions.
The businesses are as concerned as the general public into making sure that it's safe not only for their customers but for their workers, and they don't want to end up being a hot spot or have their license in danger because they became a hot spot. So I think that's why you're seeing only a few bars opened up last night when they all had the opportunity to. I think they're all trying to be prepared in the best manner for an opening, and I think that you'll see them gradually opening. We went to a place today to get takeout and thinking maybe we could actually sit there, and they're not going to open up until Monday for in-seating, so everybody is a little watching this a little nervous. It isn't like it's a Wild West party out there. That may be happening in some of the bars, but they also have to realize that they're maybe putting themselves at risk also.
Have you heard from any businesses that don't want to open for a while still?
Oh yes, many. There, in fact, most of the direct communication I've received in the last 30 or 20 hours since this happened was, give me guidelines, give us some ways so that we know that our business is safe, so that our customers and employees are safe. I think the chairman's right. Most business owners want to be responsible. They feel very protective and committed to their customers and employees. On top of that, there are real liability issues. As Ms. Ronke pointed out, we're going to know who is, if there's a source of another outbreak, we're going to know who that is. And there's a lot of very serious liability for a business like that. And so it's not just in their interest, they want to do it. That's by far the largest attitude we've seen from the business community, responsibility.
And from a safety standpoint, I hate to say it, we would probably be better off if we had most of the businesses open, because it would spread that customer base out, not crowd it in. If we only got 4 bars open in the city of Superior, you know what that's gonna look like, you know, but if we got 25 bars open, then they spread them out a little bit. So we're hoping that the businesses that do open will consider, you know, complying and to make sure that they're safe on this.
Anything you guys might say to vulnerable populations? Do you think that they should continue staying home?
Well, that's definitely a choice, and I've had a number of people reach out to me already about that, being very worried, being very, they're very fearful of being one of those people who has a very poor outcome from this disease, which is a very real possibility for some people. There are families with children who are vulnerable. Those are the people I am concerned about. And so I would encourage people who are out and about and choosing to visit places to be thoughtful then of who they're going to go back and spend their time with. Again, the virus isn't gone, and we expect to see a surge in cases as people start to mix, people come over from other counties or up from other parts of the state and things like that. It's likely to happen, and so we're going to be prepared for it. But I would encourage those people that are feeling vulnerable and nervous to really think about, they can continue to do the things, wear their face mask, visit the stores at different times, have people help them with deliveries and things like that until we see where this goes. This, like I said, is a very fluid plan, and if things go well and people stay healthy and we're a few weeks down the road, then you know, we can definitely ease up on restrictions and things like that. But we need to be prepared for the other as well. And we're prepared to handle it either way.
No more?
Good job.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kevin.
Shake hands with everybody. Slap the hand.
Right, we did. But we have to quit that hugging.
Yes.
This has been a WDIO News Special Report.